Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Suzerain, Kingdom of Rizia, where last episode we had a less than productive conversation with our buddy in Palais. Fucking asshole turned out to be a greedy little snake, and as much as I would have liked to be friends with him. He forced our hand. We sent in the fleet, and now Lesbia is calling. This should be interesting. At 3:01 p.m. it rang. Good afternoon, King Ramos. This is Patricio Alvarez. This is His Majesty Ramos Torres, ruler of Rizia, commander of the Royal Rizian Armed Forces. Duke of Valenqueris, protector of Virillion. No, I'm not going to do this. How is everything in Lesbia, Mr. Prime Minister? I'll be honest with you, Your Majesty. Things were going a lot better a week ago. I heard him sigh on the other end of the line. Here I am about to land the gas deal of a lifetime, and then my business partner calls me up and tells me we have to wait for an AN arbitration. I'm only observing protocol, Mr. Alvarez. You would do the same if I laid claim to one of Lespia's resources. It isn't your resources, Majesty. My legal counsel has a crystal clear case for Palladian ownership of the gas field. You can talk about Andor rules all you want, but in the end it's going to come down to your word versus ours. And who do you think has more sway with the Alliance of Nations? And if you want Rizia to give up its claim on the field, you're going to have to present one hell of a counteroffer. As it happens, I do have a proposition that might interest you. No promises, but I'm listening. I've been following the situation in Zilla. It seems to me like you could use help with this debacle. I am growing concerned about the timely return of the region, yes. As you should be. He's a slippery man, Smolak. He won't catch your territory back unless you tighten your grip on him. Are you offering to intervene, Mr. Prime Minister? Of course, Lesby can't do that, but we can provide some assistance from the sidelines. By speaking up on your behalf at the upcoming AN session, for example. Seriously? That's it? You expect us to give up our claim for the gas field for that little? It's more than you'll get if you continue down the arbitration path. Actually, I'll be extra generous. Cede the Aureus field to Palais, and in addition to the estations I just promised, we'll sell you 1/4 of the exploration rights. Huh. You wouldn't be bargaining if you thought you had an airtight case. I'm trying to make sure we both get something out of this, Your Majesty. A certain social club I'm in has taught me the importance of service to others. Huh. It may be silver, but I don't believe for a second that you've changed your ways. You don't have to believe me, all you have to do is say yes. -1 budget per turn and only 1 energy per turn in the future? I don't think it's worth it. I'd much rather build the coal reserve thing. Appreciate your considerations, but win or lose, I want to see how arbitration plans out. Fair enough, Your Majesty. I'll see you in Curate. Pleasure speaking with you, Prime Minister. We said our goodbyes and hung up. I sat there for a while, wondering what I had gotten myself into. Were Duke Reinhardt and Prime Minister Alvarez right? Was I doomed to lose this battle? Palisades Navy to Aureus Field. Okay, keep your distance. For fuck's sake. Ah, shit. -1 budget from Grace, that's not good. We'll find new and better alternatives. Rumor tries to reassure Grace members. Grace condemns strength declined. And sure, let's have an evening conversation with our mother. It was the night before my trip to Kirut for the Alliance of Nations meeting. I had just finished some last-minute preparations in my study. I carefully made my way back toward the palace residential wing. It was later than I realized the halls were dead silent, illuminated only by weak shafts of moonlight through the windows. Grand Wiseman Ignatian's quarters were on the ground floor. I saw light coming out of the keyhole. Sure, let's snoop. Carefully bent down and looked inside. Sal was rocking back and forth in his armchair, his eyes closed. He seemed to be mouthing a prayer. Just before the stairs was the entrance to Venus' room. Although through the door I caught the faint strains of her voice. Should we snoop? I mean, I got to know. I pressed my ear against the door in order to hear better. Oh, don't be so blue. Honestly, what were you expecting? No, I won't talk to him. He's in Kirut the next few days. Yes. Oh, we'll speak very soon. There was a clunk where she hung up her phone. I moved away from the door and kept walking. Huh. Interesting. I reached the top floor across the hall from my bedchamber. The Queen Mother's door was open. Are we locked out of going to the... Are we locked out of going to the House of Representatives? That sucks. I should have done that first then. Looked in, my mother was smoking out on her balcony, her back turned toward me. Good evening, Mother. She looked startled for a moment, then smiled. I'm surprised you're still up. You have a long day ahead of you. All set for tomorrow? Father tell you anything about these AN sessions? Well, you know, he was no diplomat. In fact, I'm not sure he even attended after the Zilla agreement. Poor Mr. Escobel went along in his stead. You are planning on addressing the elephant in the chamber, aren't you? As the arbitration committee should have come to a decision already, our claims on the gas field is clear. No, which elephant? There are so many. I wonder that you world leaders can squeeze in amongst all those pachyderms. But I was referring to Zilla, or have you forgotten that the handover deadline is imminent? We need our land back no matter what kind of announcement Victor Smolak has up his sleeve. How do you know he's going to make an announcement? My whispered networks aren't what they used to be, but wives still talk. Any advice? I say don't stoop to his level, make him look like the tyrant he is. Has your new lady friend received any more intelligence from Velen? The Palais situation has required her full attention. Do try to keep her in line. The Azaros getting too mixed with Palais is what lost us Zilla in the first place. I'll stay on top of her. Oh, God. You perhaps envision minding your own damn business for once. Duchess Azaro has a level head. She won't drag us into conflict without reason. Oh, there's always a reason. She stubbed her cigarette out on the balcony railing and sighed. Well, it's about time. I got some rest. Uh, I had one more thing I wanted to ask about Vina. What about our princess? Has she told you whether she's seeing someone? That is the sort of information a young lady shares with her grandmother. Although, of course, I've heard the same rumors you have. I think they're more than just rumors. Then you have a relationship to approve of, or not. She flicked a bit of ash from her cigarette off the balcony. I'll tell you this much, the last thing you want to do is forbid her from seeing him. I would never do that. She's allowed to love whoever she wants. But after everything the Sazons did to you, to us, royal marriages are a balancing act, my dear. You can satisfy the betrothed or the country, but almost never both. Almost, you were lucky for a while, Romus. This particular match you will this particular match would satisfy your daughter very much. It would also put House Sazon dangerously close to the throne. It's up to you whether Vina's happiness is worth that. Of course it is, Mother. How could you even ask that? Then you have to find a way to make it work to your advantage. You could use the pairing to keep a close eye on the opposition, assuming Vina trusts you enough to pass along information about her paramour's family. I mean, she's my daughter, not a spy. Or there's one other thing you could do. You send the princess on a nice, relaxing trip abroad. Nothing cures love sickness like a change of scenery. Diplomatic mission, perhaps. Distract Vina and improve our international standing in one go. And if she meets some dashing foreign prince over there, consider it a bonus. She yawned theatrically. And with that, it's time to turn in. No, I want them to get together. Thanks for all your advice. What's a mother for? I wished her good night and left her room. I heard her plight click off. I turned to my quarters to see Titus take his post outside my door. I wondered how long he'd been shadowing me for. In my room, Pavel had already packed my suitcase and turned the bed down. I climbed into bed but was too distracted by thoughts of the day ahead to sleep. Okay, let's visit the House of Delegates. Huh, interesting. So I thought the reason they were talking would be because he's disappointed I didn't come to the house. Walked down the palm tree lined path that connected Palace Resna to the nearby House of Delegates. In contrast to the ornate palace, the house was essentially a plain concrete box. Its stripped down appearance reflected its hurried construction. The only adornment was a phrase chiseled above the entrance, Aux Populat Risati. To the risen people. Uh, I made my way down the hall to the meeting room. Hugo rose to greet me as I entered the empty chamber. He took out seats atop the raised wooden platform in the center of the room. Directly below the platform were two podiums, one for each speaker. Wooden benches for the delegates were arranged in a circle around us. Welcome, Your Majesty. What can we expect today? The usual. The Sazon boy will try to pass his latest impractical proposition, and the delegates will sensibly shut it down. Good. Good that I'm here. It's about time someone listened to that, kid. Someone besides your daughter, you mean? Rebuilding relations with Al Sazon is a sound strategy, but we mustn't allow them to get too close to the throne. Yes, I'm sure you'd love her to spend time with your son, but that is not going to happen. The clock struck 10 and the delegates filed in. Each wore a satin sash and the traditional color of his or her province, red for Rizia in Perry, blue for Monquise, yellow for Cardesse Monteclar, and green for Brennas. Next came the speaker, House Leader Daria Derava, walked out in a well-tailored crimson suit. She had a brisk gait and impeccable posture. The other delegates practically held their breath as they waited for her to take her place. You said she's a loyalist? Quite right. In all of the sessions I've attended, she has never made a decision that didn't align with the interests of House Taurus. I noted the approving tone in his voice as he spoke of her. Next came Manus Sazon, clad in black suit with a forest green silk tie. He waved to his fellow delegates, then to me. Not wave, can't show favoritism. I didn't move as he took his place. Daria picked up a golden bell and rang it once. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my privilege to call this meeting of the House of Delegates to order. Today we are humbled by the presence of His Majesty King Romus, long may he reign. Few cries of long may he reign echoed among the delegates, particularly those in red and blue sashes. Say that louder. I'm here to serve you, esteemed delegates. I look forward to your recommendations. She smiled and continued. The Rizian People's Party has prepared a proposal that Mr. Sazon will submit before the delegates and His Majesty. The delegates will vote on whether to accept or reject it, but this is a non-binding recommendation. The ultimate authority rests with the King and the Royal Council. She flipped open the binder. Today's session is regarding the Rizian Worker Protection Act. Mr. Sazon, would you like to explain more? Gladly, Madam Speaker. The past 2 decades have seen a marked increase in workplace accidents, particularly in the sectors of mining and manufacturing. The experts I've consulted with have pinpointed several factors responsible for the rise, chief among them a shortage of skilled labor and growing pressure from our primary trading partner. Simply put, our corporations have been cutting corners at the expense of human health and safety. Our industry's continuing reliance on guest workers who are paid and trained less than their native Rizian counterparts is exacerbating the problem. Now, a cross-industry coalition of employees and guest workers has bravely approached the Rizian People's Party with a list of requests to convey to our fellow delegates as well as His Majesty. Among these are mandatory workplace safety training, upgraded protective equipment, benefits for those injured on the job, and regular site inspections by state authorities. And of course, financial penalties for corporations that fail to meet these requirements. Madam Speaker, Your Majesty, surely you agree on the urgency of this proposition. Rizia's great industries will not flourish as long as our workers are suffering. I looked at Julio. Yeah, it's hard to believe we had none of these measures in place before now. And yet our industries flourished nonetheless. I suddenly realized the hall had gone quiet. Shall I continue? Please go on, I didn't mean to interrupt. Manus cleared his throat. As I was saying, my party and I believe that healthier workers will lead to more prosperous society. What we invest in these measures now will pay off tenfold in the long run. Daria sharply knocked on her podium. All eyes turned to her. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but I cannot let my opponent continue with these lies. Manus reluctantly took a step back. Of course, my party believes that worker safety is paramount, but the regulations that have been suggested today amount to overkill. It is up to individual corporations to take responsibility for reducing accidents. Shifting that responsibility to the government will do nothing to protect those at risk. It will, however, stifle our country's economic growth and decrease our viability in the global arena. If our businesses are to remain competitive, it is wiser to incentivize good safety practices than to punish their absence. I must object, Madam Speaker, companies such as Rizian Royal Gold and Rizian Oil and Gas will never voluntarily undertake the measures we're describing. Daria brushed off the comment. My point stands. With tensions rising in both our north and south, we simply cannot afford an extravagance of the type Mr. Sazon is proposing. Our focus should be on achieving better diplomatic outcomes, with our neighbors not meddling in the affairs of our corporations. From near the front door came the sound of a single person applauding. For fuck's sake. Looked towards the source. Rusty was leaning against the wall, dressed in his usual plaid. He nodded at me as he kept clapping. I turned to Hugo again. Didn't tell me you had that a special guest would be joining us today. Hugo stared in Rusty's direction, expressionless. I was not informed. Unfortunately, these sessions are open to the public, so we cannot ask him to leave without reason. In fact, his presence could be useful in pressuring the Suzerain boy to stand down with his demands. Rusty had stopped clapping now. He was scrutinizing me closely, a gleam in his eye. How nice of you to join us, Mr. Montoro. Do you have any words to the topic at hand? Name's Rusty, and as a matter of fact, I do. Rusty ambled down the aisle of the chamber. He came to a stop between the two speaker podiums. Now, I won't take up too much of your time. The Baroness summed things up pretty well. His Majesty here has also had the privilege of hearing my personal thoughts on the subject. I couldn't change his mind then, but here, in this respectable chamber full of level-headed individuals, he cleared his throat. Now, the Rizian Standard Dictionary defines gold as the... fuck's sake. Oh, fuck you. Yellow precious metal used in jewelry and to guarantee the value of currencies. Yes, we're all familiar with the substance in question. But in Rizia, it is so much more than that. Commoners who've never even touched ducat still feel proud to live on shores of gold, as we sing. But our shores would never have been golden in the first place if our monarchs had listened to naysayers like Mr. Sazon here. Your Majesty, your predecessors knew that there can be no prosperity without hard work. Our grit and determination today fills the nation's coffers tomorrow. But where does that grit go when the government's got our hands tied? How can we function as a company when you folks don't trust us to take care of our own people? It's because you don't take care of your own people. The only person you take care of is yourself. If I may ask, sir, how exactly would your proposal tie your hands? What does the country stand to lose? Don't play dumb, kid. Implementing all your suggestions would cost us and you millions. I would have no choice but to shift more of your production from Rizia to the international trade zone. Okay, so changing our standards within the country will lead to more workers being exploited outside it. However bad you think the conditions are here, Your Majesty, they're worse over there. How is that a justification? The people who produce Rizia's wealth should be treated with dignity, whether inside or outside the kingdom, and Mr. Montoro could easily afford the measures I'm suggesting if he and his fellow executives forewent a fraction of their salary. Rusty started laughing. Excuse me, you're sitting on a fortune just because you happen to have the right last name and you want me to give up the money I worked for? Worked. That's adorable. Yeah, if you want to stay in this room, you will watch your attitude. Thank you, Your Majesty. Mr. Montoro, would you and Rizia's other business owners be willing to undergo voluntary measures to increase workplace safety in lieu of the drastic action Mr. Sazon is proposing? Rusty grinned toothily. Of course we would, as long as we're allowed to keep doing what we do best. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. Come to think of it, though, I won't presume to speak for the other guys. I'm the only one who cared enough to show up today, right? So here's another thought. You regulate factories and energy plants however you like, but maybe, just maybe, you think about making an exception for old Rusty. Shove it up your ass. That's the exception I'm making for you. Minos drew a hand across his brow. We can't make any exceptions. The malfeasance of Rizian royal gold was what inspired this proposal in the first place. Yeah, I've witnessed Mr. Montaro's cavalier attitude towards employee safety. If any company needs to be regulated, it's RRG. Cavalier? Act, Your Majesty, you're the one who would be putting men out of work with one stroke of a pen. Please not forget in whose presence you're speaking, Mr. Montaro. Hugo calmly spoke up. The time for a vote is drawing close. To be clear, Mr. Sazon, you do not wish to amend your proposal to take into account Mr. Montaro's comments? I do not, Your Grace. Then you have the floor, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Your Grace. As a reminder to you and His Majesty, this vote serves as a non-binding recommendation. The King and his Council may agree or disagree at will. All those in favor of the RPP's worker safety proposal, raise your hands. About a quarter of the delegates, mostly those with green sashes, put a hand in the air. Those in favor of encouraging companies to develop and enforce their own safety protocol on a voluntary basis. The rest of the delegates, an overwhelming majority, raised their hands. Rusty smiled triumphantly. Delegates have an official recommendation. Rather than introduce sweeping and expensive labor reforms, Rizia should entrust the matter of safety to its business owners. Hugo nodded. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The final decision is now in the hands of His Majesty King Romus. Will you accept or overrule the delegates' recommendation? Have you said all that you wanted to say, Mr. Sazon? I've stated my case, Your Majesty, but I will say this. I'm glad you joined us in this room today. Perhaps now you have a better sense of the system your father put into place. The majority of delegates in this room support royal interests, not those of the subjects they claim to represent. As long as that is true, it is the King's responsibility to see past the lies and make the decision that best serves ordinary citizens. Thank you for listening. Here's what I have decided. Everyone in the room went silent and as they awaited my next words. Okay, -1 budget per turn, that's gonna be expensive. I overruled the recommendation. The safety measures suggested by the RPP will be implemented in all industries with no exceptions. Rusty glared at me but said nothing. Madam Speaker, let the record show that the King has overridden the House majority. Noted, Your Grace. Daria made a note in her binder, then looked up at Hugo and myself. If she was bothered by my decision, her face didn't show it. Once again, I thank His Majesty for blessing us with his presence today, and Duke Taurus for presiding over the session. An honor as usual, Madam Speaker. My fellow delegates and esteemed guests, this meeting is now adjourned and follow-up questions will be addressed in future sittings. She rang the bell again and the room began to empty out. As my guards escorted me toward the exit, I noticed Rusty still standing in the hall with his arms folded. I ignored him. And kept walking toward the door. His eyes shot daggers at me as I passed him and walked out. Outside the House of Delegates, I saw that Mana Sazon was waiting for me. No need to thank me, you and I wanted this equally. I will regard this, Your Majesty. It's the first time in my party's history that the King has recognized our concerns. Doesn't mean I'm giving you license to court my daughter, though. It does mean it won't be the last. I'm glad to hear that. We'll speak soon, Your Majesty. He gave me a half smile as we parted ways. Okay, what else do we got? Mining operations temporarily suspended. For cooperation investigation of the Zilla bombing. Sure, we'll cooperate. It's in our best interest to cooperate. Okay, wine exports soar amidst trade surge. That's good, +2 budget. Rizia's viniculture will travel around the world. Grapples with rising tourism and trade demands. Yeah, thankfully we are upgrading the port. Ah, fuck's sake. Yeah, that's honestly that's a fault of that's a fault of the police forces in the area for not adequately protecting the heritage site. Mandatory guided tours for foreigners. I mean, there should be mandatory guided tours for everyone. Okay, Valiant fixes for cooperation. And that will be time to go to the ATO. Not just yet. I do want to look over a couple of things. Not this, that. Minus 2 budget. Ah, fuck. I know I promised to do that, and I will. Do we need to increase? Increase. We need to increase our budget. Okay, we're probably gonna build the gold mine then. By the end of the thing. Are we even building ships? Probably not because we haven't completed the port yet. Ah, I need that fucking dam to get in to be fucking finished already. We're negative energy production. But yeah, that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join us next time when we go to the Alliance of Nations and see where our future lies. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I hope and hope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time.